try to give it a little more time, see if anyone else actually shows up. Well, I guess I'll just start, I suppose. Only one person here at the moment, but anyhow, of course, the Mueller investigation is over, and I just thought I would give a few thoughts on it and everything, and just let people know where I stand on the whole investigation in general. Now, of course, the investigation started back in 2016 after the presidential election, when it appeared that Russia had possibly interfered in our elections. To what extent, nobody knew. But at the end of the day, there were 34 indictments, 25 of which were Russians who actually interfered in our elections. And that's pretty much where it stands. Now, yesterday, Mueller ended his investigation saying that he was not going to give any more indictments out or anything over the case, and that's just, and that the case was over, basically, and that he was turning the information over to Congress, or not Congress, but to the Department of Justice, who could then hand it out to Congress, and they can decide whether or not to release it. But as for Donald Trump and his whole philosophy, his whole idea that this whole thing has been nothing but one big witch hunt, it is absolutely just insane. Witch hunts don't produce indictments. Witch hunts do not produce guilty pleas. But there are actually people out there who believe this investigation netted no results at all. I had somebody on Facebook just a little bit ago tell me that this investigation was a complete sham because nobody was ever indicted. There were no indictments, no guilty pleas, when that's obviously wrong. Now, my thought has always been that Donald Trump probably didn't do anything wrong. But I thought the investigation should be completed. That way, we would know whether or not Donald Trump did anything, and we could move on. And, people around him did things wrong, obviously. From Michael Flynn to Paul Manafort to Roger Stone. But at the end of the day, it's really nothing that he has done. So I think we need to move on from that. Obviously, if there's nothing in this report that indicates that Donald Trump did anything wrong, we should accept the results and move on. That's been my theory from the beginning. The only thing I ever cared about was making sure that we found out who, how, and where Russians interfered in the 2016 election. And that's really where I stand on it. I wanted to make sure that whoever did interfere in our elections, because it was proven by our own intelligence agencies, like the CIA, that this had happened. And the indictments of 25 Russians kind of point to that. There was one scheme where they were stealing people's identities and stuff, trying to convince them to vote one way or the other. And then there was another set of 12 or 13 that were indicted for trying to meddle in the election. And I find it interesting that there are people out there that actually believe this investigation did absolutely nothing. They sit there and say that it's a sham. Well, you investigated Benghazi for 4 years, found nothing. Was that a sham? I didn't think so. I thought we should get to the bottom of it and make sure that nothing wrong no wrongdoing was done by the president or Mrs. Clinton at the time. So I supported that investigation. The only investigation really into a president in my lifetime that I haven't supported was the one into Bill Clinton having an affair. I just didn't think it was our place. I didn't think it was my business who or what he was sleeping with. That's not my business. I didn't care. It's just not my issue. But I think this was an issue that was very important to the American people. I think everybody needed to see it. And I think it had to be out there for public consumption. I believe that Mueller needed to do this investigation, that I think the Republicans were correct by starting this investigation, and appointing an independent counsel. I think that was the right thing to do, and I think they know it was the right thing to do. And of course, most people are wanting to support releasing it to the public once it's been, read by the DOJ and seen by Congress and everything. They want it released, except for one person, and that is Donald Trump's new lackey, Lindsey Graham, who obviously, since the passing of his great friend John McCain, has completely lost his mind. Because he's up there in Congress just the other day saying, blocking the attempt by Congress to allow this to go on, to let it be released to the public. The only things I think shouldn't be released are things that may have to do with national security. Those things, maybe they shouldn't be released. But at the end of the day, the investigation is what it is. 34 indictments, multiple guilty pleas, and some trials that are still pending. You've got Michael Flynn, you got Cohen, all sorts of people that did things they weren't supposed to do. And likely the worst thing Donald Trump probably did himself was pay off the porn star that he had an affair with. There again, not our business. The only thing that is our business is the fact that he paid $130,000 to somebody to shut him up after he declared for presidency, because he was scared he would hurt his chances. And another thing that I have to focus on or discuss here is the fact that people, on the left, many of them whom I really respect, like the people over at TYT, they claim that Donald Trump is an idiot, that Donald Trump is a complete moron. And if he was a complete moron, then how can you accuse him of colluding with another country to steal an election? I don't think that's something he could have done if he is a complete moron, as many on the left see. I also believe that even if he had done anything, it would have never come back to Donald Trump anyway. Because, if you're doing something wrong, you're going to keep your hands clean. But like I said, I don't think he colluded with Russia. I don't think he ever did. I just don't believe it. And if the Mueller report does prove that, then that is that. And I think people need to understand that. That yes, people around you can do bad things and you have nothing to do with it. It is very likely and very possible. I said from the beginning, two things. One, that he is likely not going to be indicted on anything because he likely didn't do anything. And two, I said let the investigation continue and let it finish. That way we can find out when and where Russians interfered in our elections. And unfortunately, this live stream didn't really net very many people, but to the one person out there watching, thank you. But I just thought it was something important to let, to get out there, put out my thoughts on the issue, on the whole investigation. In the end, I think it was a net good, and I think it was a good thing for us to go through. I think we had to go through and figure out what actually happened. But unfortunately, Some people aren't going to accept either way it goes. You're going to have people on the left that aren't going to accept it, and you're not going to have people on the right that are going to accept it. You're going to have people on the left that are going to be like, oh, he had to have, but the investigations might not, just looking like it's not going to say he did anything wrong. But then you're going to have those people on the right who are going to sit there and tell you that, it was a whole sham. There was nothing ever happened. There was no anything. And that's simply not true. Anyhow, this has been the Big Rant Show. I've been your host, Jacob Keck, and I'll see you down the road.